This is Gi-hun, player 456 from Squid Game, and I'm about to show you how to draw him realistically. But here's the twist. I'm also giving you the exact method that took my drawings from this to this. And trust me, it wasn't talent. This drawing was my best work 4 years ago.
Oh my god, what's that? Is that hyperpigmentation?
But then I stumbled upon a simple, effective method that turned my work around almost overnight, the grid method. And here's the best part. It doesn't just work for Gi-hun, it works for drawing anyone. It's also beginner friendly. I mean, I'm pretty much self-taught and the grid method was my springboard. So even though I'm no longer reliant on it, I'm going to apply it to drawing Gi-hun today to show you firsthand just how insanely effective it is. So if you've ever put effort into a portrait only for it to look nothing like the person, stick around and feel free to actually draw along. By the end of the video, you will have a step-by-step process to drawing faces accurately every single time. I kicked off the Squid Game series with this guy, player 230, but I didn't anticipate the cult following that the show had amassed, and soon I had requests to draw other characters like this, and this, and this, and this.
It's entirely possible.
As much as I wanted to deliver on everybody's requests, the demanding drawing schedule had run me down. I needed a reset before I could pick up a pencil again. Let's go spend some time touching grass. Nothing restores creativity like connecting with creation. This place was so peaceful and grounding. I just knew I had to draw the happy version of Gi-hun next. Of course, what's an art reset without some fresh supplies? A quick art supply run was in order, which, to be honest, was not quick or cheap. Then back to the workspace. Nothing fancy, no high-end setup, literally just my desk and a pile of supplies in a corner of a room. Because you don't need the best supplies or a big studio to improve your art, so never let lack of space or stuff stop you. Grab your pencils, get comfortable, and let's get started. For this method, you really only need a light and a dark pencil, a ruler, an eraser, and something to blend with. But I'll show you what I use because the right tools do make life easier. A kneaded eraser. This one is like putty. You can mold it into any shape and it doesn't leave annoying eraser shavings everywhere. Blending stumps and some cotton buds. This is a precision eraser. Not a good buy. Don't waste your money. And I also have a range of pencils from 4H to EE. If you're just starting out and want to keep it simple, go for a B and an 8B. You can get almost any shading level you need just by adjusting pressure. Lastly, you'll also need some paper, at least A5, and a reference image. I've linked mine in the description, but feel free to grab whichever one you like because, as I said, this method will work to draw anyone. Just make sure to filter it to black and white and adjust the contrast and shadows so the values are easy to see. Trust me, working in pencil off a color reference is painful. Let's talk about grids. If you've ever tried drawing a face and ended up with one eye bigger than the other, or a nose that looks like it belongs on a completely different person, been there. That's where the grid comes in. It's actually one of the best ways to train your eye to draw accurately. We first need to overlay a grid onto our reference. I use an app for this. Set it to 5 columns and 8 rows and that should suffice. Make sure the grid is set to square and not rectangular or you'll end up with a distorted face. And Gi-hun would not be happy about that. Now you can choose to print out the reference image. I prefer to leave it on my phone so I can zoom in and out as needed. Then we transfer the grid over to our paper by drawing it. First, we measure the length and height of our drawing area. Here, I've chosen to leave a border. We can then divide the length of our drawing area by 8, marking these points along the line. So we end up with 8 equally sized rows. And we then do the same on the opposite end of the drawing area and lightly join these marked off points to form 8 rows of equal size. We can then measure and mark off the points to join at the top and the bottom of the drawing area, and those will form our 5 columns. Just remember that a square has 4 sides all of equal length, so make sure that you mark off the same distance for the columns across as you did for the rows through top and bottom. Check your grid against your reference image to make sure that the number of rows in the columns match up. If your grid lines are too dark, use a kneaded eraser to lightly lift the graphite. You want them to be visible enough to guide you, but not so dark that they show up in the final drawing. If you want even more accuracy, you can also draw diagonal grid lines such as I have by connecting the corners of each square. This helps you see proportions better and makes mapping out the face even easier. You can also label the rows in the columns, 1 to 8 for rows and A to E for columns, so you can now easily check where each feature should go. Let's start with the mapping of the face. I always begin with the outer contours when using the grid method because it's easier to track from the borders of the grid than to start guessing feature placements inside. So, using the grid as a guide, I'll lightly sketch in the shoulder on the left from square 3A to the cheek in 4B, going upwards towards the hairline in 7B, and coming down the right side to outline the shape of the jawline and chin in 3E to 2C, all the while paying attention to where the angles change. At this stage, I'm not really worried about details, I just want a clean, proportional foundation. Here's the key. Only focus on one square at a time. If you try to draw the whole face at once, your brain is going to start guessing what it should look like instead of actually observing what is there. The grid helps you to break everything down into small, manageable sections. In fact, don't even think about the fact that you're drawing a face. You are simply drawing lines and shapes. That's it. Square by square, you are going from one point where the outline starts in a square to the point where the outline ends in that square. And then you move to the next square, and the next, and the next. And soon, you'll have the outline of his face and head. Once the outer shape is locked in, we can move to the inside of the grid and place the key facial features there. The eyes are a bit tricky, so I place these first, looking at where the corners of each eye lines up with the grid, and drawing that eye outline exactly as I see it. From the eyes, I like to have a look at where the nose would be. The nostrils typically do line up with the inner corners of the eyes, but since we have the grid intersections to help us, I'll just match the nostrils and the nose outline to those points using my reference image. I'll again just have a look to make sure these features aren't too high, low, or skewed. Over here, I noticed that the nostril on the right side of the face was not well aligned, so I did adjust that slightly. Now that all the major elements are in place, I take a step back and check, is the symmetry correct? Are any of the features too big, too small, slightly off center? At this stage, we can lightly erase and tweak anything that feels off. At this point, you also just want to block in the very obvious shadows. The ones under the eyes, along the chin, the outline of the face, underneath the nose. You can do the same with the gum line, the hair, the collar of the t-shirt, and any other obviously darker areas that you want to block in at this stage. You can then use a cotton bud or a blending stump if you have one, or simply use your finger to gently go over those shaded areas to blend them in. And now we've got a solid, proportionately accurate sketch in place. So before we move to even heavier shading and gradually building in that tone, give yourself some time to walk away and come back to the portrait with a fresh pair of eyes. I cannot tell you how many times I've done this, and when I take a fresh look, I instantly see what it is that is off in the image. So I'll be off to bed now, and we can review this in the morning.
Welcome back, my friends.
And with a fresh pair of eyes, it's time to reassess whether we absolutely hate it. Okay, I think we can work with this. So from here on, we'll be gradually building in deeper and darker pencil shades As we can see in the reference image, it's darker along the nose and mouth lines, so we can start with a 2B and progressively go through to the 8B. If you only have an 8B, simply use different pressure. You can start applying it lighter, and then in the darker areas just apply more and more pressure until you gradually build up the right value. For the lips, you want that to be a seamless blend between the darker outlines and the lighter inner areas of the lip. Once you've finished with shading in and darkening and blending through the lip area, move on to the eye area, making sure you get a very dark value to use for the actual pupil of the eye, the iris. Make sure that is the darkest area in the image, and that will later on match the hair once we shade that in darker. You can also use a black ink pen if you have one. Black ink really works wonders for the eye area because you can really have that stand out. It will absolutely pop once you just layer some black ink in the center and along the lid, the upper lid, and as well as in the corner of the eye. Just follow your reference image to guide you as to where and how dark those shades should be. Do the same with the other eye, and then just add some black ink along the nostrils before moving on to shading the hair. For the hair, you can use an 8B or anything darker. You can use a black pencil if you have one. And just shade in the general direction of the hair growth. You can also use that same pencil to do the collar of the t-shirt as well as the jacket. Use your blending stump or your cotton bud just to get those areas blended through very nicely. For highlights, you can use your kneaded eraser. Lift up the graphite in areas where you can see that the light should be shining. You can also use your kneaded eraser just to lift off some highlights in the hair, and that'll bring it to life. Once you're happy with your values, your highlights look like they are popping, your darkest darks have added depth and dimension to your image, work all that through until you are fully satisfied, and then just add some tone to your background. So basically you can take a cotton pad or a cotton bud and just add a very light layer of tone to the background, and then clean out the outer area, any smudges, any areas that have graphite that shouldn't. Make sure you use a hard eraser to get rid of those. And then finally, if you have also added a border in your image, just use a thick black ink pen to outline that boundary layer, have that border just well defined. And then lastly, for the final element that just will make this image absolutely pop and add a dimension of life to it, use a white gel ink pen and add some highlights to the eyes, to the irises. You'll notice in your reference image that the eyes are reflecting a touch of light, and you just want to depict that in your own image. If you've made it this far, thank you. I hope you enjoyed the process or learned something of value. Your support means everything, so as a way to give back, I will be giving away the entire Squid Game fan art series by the end of February 2025. So everything that I have drawn as part of the series, which you can view in the playlist on my channel, will be given away. I will pay for international shipping if required, and it's really super simple. If you're subscribed, you can drop a comment telling me either who your favorite Squid Game character is and why, or if you could change anything about the script of Squid Game, about the narrative, what would you change about the story and why? That's it. No extra steps, no hidden rules. It will be a random draw amongst all of the entrants. And here's the cool part, I am not promoting this giveaway anywhere else, so if you are hearing this, your chances of winning are pretty good. A few quick rules: you must be 18 or older to enter, or have a parent or guardian enter on your behalf. This giveaway is not sponsored, endorsed, or affiliated with Netflix or Squid Game in any way. It's just me giving away my fan art, all the original A5 drawings, and once the giveaway ends, I will leave a comment on this video to let everyone know. Good luck, and thanks again for being here.